AITA for kicking out my SIL after her daughter ate my wife's pregnancy snacks? My wife is on her first and last pregnancy. She's in her early 20s but has had holes in her uterus in the past and miscarried previously. This one is super high risk and the doctor's visits have been frequent and stressful. After this my wife will be getting sterilized and I'll be getting a vasectomy. She's currently 7 months pregnant and all she's been craving is plain grilled ground beef soaked in garlic powder, red crushed pepper and sriracha and peanut caramel marzipan. As the person who has to smell it and kiss her, I prefer to spoil her with the marzipan, and it's much quicker for her to be able to eat. I'm doing my best to spoil her because this is her first and only full-term pregnancy she'll be able to experience. I bulk bought some marzipan candies for her and placed them in her cubby in the pantry, where she keeps her maternal vitamins, anti-nausea pills and snacks. My wife's sister came to visit with her daughter for 2 weeks this Sunday, and we welcomed them to the pantry but asked that FHEY not touch anything in the cubbies because those are especially for us. I went out to run errands the other day and came home to my wife on the couch holding her stomach and crying. I assumed the worst and asked what's wrong, and she told me that niece had eaten up all her marzipan. And there was no ground beef and it's all she wanted and everything else smelled disgusting. I asked my SIL about it and she said it was just candy and my wife shouldn't be eating so much sugar during her pregnancy anyways, and that she can't expect a kid not to want candy. I asked her to replace it and she said no, and that I could buy it since it was so precious. I told her to leave the next morning and she groaned and grunted around about how bad I'm treating family around the house till she left. My wife's family is calling me an ass for kicking them out over something so silly and that I could have just bought more. It all feels so silly, but I'm beginning to doubt myself here. Extra info. My wife does have a balanced pregnancy diet, approved by her OB/GYN. We try to adhere to, consisting of oatmeal, fruit, rice and beans, chicken, baked or grilled, vegetables, mineral water and vitamins. The cravings are not all she eats. It's just what she eats when she's craving it. Please have a little more faith in me as a husband that I won't gorge my wife on sweets while she's in a high-risk pregnancy. NTA, she insulted you and your wife while she was your guest. I wouldn't say you kicked them out for eating the marzipan at all. In fact, you said they could replace it and that would be fine. She refused to replace it and insulted you. And that's why they are kicked out. NTA. You gave a clear boundary. They crossed it. Your wife has specific cravings. Your doctors would be the ones to give you the food advice and whether it's too much, etc., not the family. After the trauma your wife has been through, these people seem to have no empathy for her. Fark, for a minute I thought the marzipan was going on the ground garlic beef. NTA. If your SIL wants the candies, she can buy them herself. Also, it's so rude of her to help herself to that one thing you told her not to touch. NTA. Coming from a pregnant person. You can't eat, just replace a craving. Food aversions are very real, and when there's only so many things you can eat without vomiting, it's a big deal when you don't have them. You set the boundary with them to not eat specific things and they broke it. You were just being a good partner to your wife. Info. How does the wife feel about it? NTA. This is, as you've noted, a high-risk, high-stress pregnancy. This may seem like a small thing, but the distress your wife was in is very real. And it isn't negligible. Your sister-in-law and niece couldn't manage to follow very basic rules for even a single day. This was arguably small. But it demonstrates an utter disregard for how delicate this situation and your wife's condition is. Better they leave now before they're given a chance to do more things to elevate your wife's stress levels and discomfort. NTA. You were very specific that they could have anything except what was in that cubby. The sister and her child showed a tremendous amount of disrespect by eating it, being verbally rude to you and refusing to buy more. Not only did you do the correct thing in telling them to leave, I'd not let them stay ever again. If they want to visit, they can come, stay in a hotel, and you can meet them anywhere except in your home. NTA. This would be reversed if they offered to replace the snacks. But what a shitty response from them. And how disrespectful to your wife. Totally in the right for kicking them out for not at least taking responsibility for eating your wife's snacks. As someone whose wife also had crazy cravings during her pregnancy, those food are sacred. You don't let people even look at them. NTA. SIL caused more stress on both of you. She's not part of your wife's medical team, so she gets no input on diet choices. I hope the rest of the pregnancy goes well for y'all. NTA. Hubby of the Year! Exclamation mark. Good on you for standing up for your wife. Sister has a nasty attitude. NTA. They are lucky you didn't kick them out immediately. What age is the child? NTA. This is your wife's first and last pregnancy, so yes, she deserves to be spoiled and waited on. You, SIL, and her daughter are the here. Good for you for protecting and taking care of your wife and future child. Congratulations. Edit. Spelling mistake. NTA. Good on you for standing up for your wife. Her family should be more understanding of how high risk she is. While I've never been pregnant, I know many people who have. And those cravings can be unbearable. Also, commenting on what your wife is eating while she's growing a whole human? Unacceptable. Kids can be kids. It'd be one thing if your niece got into the snacks when nobody was looking, and your SIL apologized, then promised to replace it. I would be really careful with having her around in the future. If she can't listen to a basic request like, "Don't eat this specific thing," I wouldn't trust her with some of the bigger things. NTA. It's not about candy. It's about respecting the boundaries you and your wife set. If there are only 2 foods your wife can tolerate during pregnancy, it makes sense that those 2 things would need to be on hand. Your SIL was blatantly disregarding and minimizing your wife's needs in her own house. Your wife shouldn't be mistreated in her own home. And some people need to learn that lesson the hard way. NTA. If your SIL had been mortified, I would have been if my son had cleaned out someone's snacks. Especially after being told they were off limits. If she'd gone to replace them immediately and apologized, I could say maybe ta. But she's totally ta for 1. Allowing her kid to eat food that was expressly off limits, and 2. Arguing that she wouldn't replace it. You SIL as a piece of work, and it's good you got her out of there. NTA. Your wife's family is. Apparently. Their stance is, hey, so someone stole the candy that your fragile wife craves during this very sensitive pregnancy. So, just go out and buy more. What jerks. You specifically told your SIL to not touch anything in the cubbies, yet her daughter ate all of the candy. Your SIL took no responsibility for her daughter's actions. She was a terrible houseguest. Now she is badmouthing you to the rest of your wife's family. Wow. She's a real winner. You seem like a great husband who is trying his best to take care of his wife. Good for you. During my last pregnancy I was like your wife. Most foods absolutely disgusted me. It wasn't just me being precious, I really couldn't stomach food and it made me feel ill. If someone ate the only food I could stomach, I would have cried. I think your sister-in-law hasn't experienced it. She might think you and her sister was overacting. Congratulations on your baby. My baby is 4 months now, and while it's hard work, there is nothing better. NTA. You clearly stated your boundary and it was broken anyway. If you had let them stay, they would likely continue breaking the same boundary since SIL seemed to not care. A doctor would know more about what's good for your wife than SIL would. NTA. It's not about the candy. It's about the utter lack of respect. If she had just bought the candy, there would be no issue. Right?
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Haircast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.